right, today we are going to be on page 205. We're going to be applying some of the strategies that we've used before. Now this one that we're going to start with on number 1 is one that we did at the very beginning. It says show a related subtraction equation for each of the addition equations shown in the example. 80 minus blank equals blank. 80 minus blank equals blank, and blank equals 80 minus blank. Now, before we panic, the only thing that we're doing is we are trying to see if we can make a problem. So remember when we made our own problems at the very beginning, we're going to do that. So let's take away, I can pick whatever number I want. So let's say I take away 10 from 80. I'm just throwing out 10 out there because I know I like to work with 10s. If I have 80 and I take away a 10, I get what? 70. So I just did one. Now let's think if I do another one. If I have 80 and let's say I take away 20. Let's say I take away 2 10s now. I'm going to lock in 80 and go backwards by 2 10s. So 80, 70, 60. I have 60. I can make up another one if I want. I can continue that pattern and do 30. Maybe I want to do 5. So 80 minus 5. This one's just written backwards. They're just showing you another way that you can see problems like this. We've seen problems in our book kind of look like this before. 80 minus 5. So if I take away 80 from 5, or if I take away 5 from 80, I get what? Well, let's see. Let's lock in 80, 79, 78, 77, 76, 75. I get 75. So friends, for any of these problems, you can have a variety of answers. It just has to make sense. So if I were to check my answers, so let's say I have 70 and 10 and 80. Well, if I use the same 3 numbers and switch my problem to an addition problem to check, why can I do that? I can do it because of a fact family. So let's check to see if my answer is correct. So if I do 70 plus 10, I take my 2 smaller numbers to equal my bigger number. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 1 is 8. It checks out. So as long as your answers check out and they make sense going both ways, meaning subtraction and rewriting the problem to an addition problem, you did a nice job. All right, we're going to go to the next page. We're going to do some practice problems together. Trying to make that show for you guys. All right, number 2. It says, a store has 57 granola bars. Then some of the granola bars are sold. Now there are 29 bars left. How many granola bars are sold? Show your work. So, one question, our little friend over here is going to help us out. Will you add or subtract to solve the problem? Well, let's read it again. A store has 57 granola bars. So we start with 57, right? So I'm going to start with 57. It says, then some of the granola bars are sold. If you sell something, they are disappearing, right? So we're going to subtract. But do we know how many are sold yet? No, it just says some. So I'm going to put a little question mark, my mystery number. And it says now there are 29 granola bars left. Another clue that we're doing subtraction is it says left, and 29 is smaller than 57. So I now have my problem. Now it's time to solve. So I can solve this problem in a variety of ways. I can rewrite the problem to do a stacking strategy. I know with fact families, if I keep my larger number up top, I can do 57 minus 29, and I'm still going to get my mystery number. I can do that because of fact families. Remember, we can rewrite fact families. So for our stacking strategy, I'm going to go to my ones. Is there more on top or more on the floor? More on the floor, go next door and borrow some more. So since there's more on the floor, I'm going to cross out 5, and I get 4. That group of 10 that I just stole, because remember, we have to have more on top, we're taking a group of 10 away. So 10 plus 7 is 17, so I'm just going to put a 1 there to kind of help me. 17 minus 9. That equals 8. And now we have 4 minus 2 equals 2. You can solve it in that way. You can say, maybe I want to do an addition strategy. Even though I started it out this way, I can always change it to a different type of problem if I would like to, because I know fact families. So let's say I want to do addition. In addition, I always start with my smaller numbers first, and it equals my bigger number. So I have 29 plus our question mark equals 57. So if I do, let's say, an open number line, I can start with 29, because my smaller number is always going to come first on my number line, and my bigger number is 57. Since I am adding, which direction am I going? Am I going bigger or smaller? I'm going to go bigger. So for me, I think 29 is really close to a 10. So I'm going to jump to the nearest 10. 29 super close to 30, and I just have to take one jump, right? Now I'm in my 10s, and I'm ready to keep going. So I have 30, log in 30, 40, 50. I can't go to 60, though, because I cannot go over 57. So I can make 2 jumps of 10 to 50, and 2 10s equals 20. And then how many jumps does it take to get from 50 to 57? It takes 7 jumps. So my last step that I have to do is I have to add these 3 numbers. I have to add my 20, my 1, and my 7. And I get 1 plus 7 equals 8. 2 plus 0 equals 2. I get 28 again. So depending on which strategy you did, you can do the addition strategy and start off by jumping by 10s. You can do an open number line and go backwards if you want. Just make sure you're checking those answers. And friends, remember, if at any time I'm going too fast or you need something repeated, you can always rewatch the video and rewind, or you can message me and I can explain it to you again, okay? I don't want anybody to feel frustrated. Number 3. It said Lisa sells 24 fewer tickets than Brad for the school's fun fair. Lisa sells 50 tickets. How many tickets does Brad sell? Well, we know Lisa sells a total of 50, right? So if she sells 50, and it says Lisa sells 24 fewer tickets than Brad, that means Brad sold 24 more tickets. So if I do 50 plus 24, because I know Lisa sells 50, but it also says Lisa sells 54 fewer tickets than Brad. So fewer means less, but think of the question, it's asking for how many Brad sold. If Lisa sold less than Brad, we still need to know Brad's number. And for that reason, we have to add those 2 numbers together. So for this one, I think I'm going to stack these. So I'm going to do 50 plus 24. 0 plus 4 is 4. Remember, we're adding. 5 plus 2 equals 7. I get 74. Now, friends, if you want to check that answer, let's see. Brad, we said Brad had 74. So we're going to start with 74, and it says Lisa sells 24 fewer tickets than Brad. So if I take away 24, I should get 50 as my answer. Why should I get 50 as my answer? Because it's a fact family. It's the same 3 numbers. I have 74, 24, so I should get 50. Let's see. 4 minus 4, is my number on top bigger, or am I bigger on the floor? Or if the numbers are the same 0 is the game. 5 minus 2 equals 5. I got 50. It checks out. Woo! Alrighty. Down here it says Tyler chose C as the correct answer. How did Tyler get his answer? Well, one thing I noticed is if he chose C as his answer, he got 26. 26 isn't bigger than 24 or 50, right? 26 is a lot smaller. What do we know about equations when we put it in here? When we add, our smaller numbers equal our bigger number, correct? So we had two small numbers and it equaled a bigger number. However, he got a smaller number. So that tells me he might have subtracted. So let's see. So if he did 50, he took his two numbers and he subtracted 50 minus 24. Let's see what he got. So do I have more on top or more on the floor? I have more on the floor, so I need to go next door and borrow some more. So my 5 becomes a 4. I'm going to steal that 10 and bring it over here so I have plenty of numbers to take away. So I have 10 minus 4 equals 6, and 4 minus 2 equals 2. Ah, that is what he did. He got 26. He accidentally made the mistake of not reading the question really carefully. This one was a tricky one, friends. It was really wordy. So he accidentally subtracted rather than adding. So make sure you're reading those questions super carefully. Okay, we are going to go on to your practice problem. Friends, this is going to be the homework that you are submitting that I kept making and I decided not to do. So now you're finally going to get a chance to do it. If you would like to work with me through this, continue watching the video. And if you want to try it independently, you can do that as well. All right, so here we go. Number 1, it says, Carmen has 53 animal cards. David has 29 animal cards. How many fewer cards does David have than Carmen? So it says Carmen has 53. We know she has 53 cards. And it says David has 29 cards. How many fewer cards? So we're finding out how many fewer cards David has than Carmen. So when we're finding the fewer cards, we need to subtract. So 43 minus 29. We're trying to see, we know Carmen has way more cards than David, right? We need to see how many more she had. So to find that number, we have to subtract. So friends, this is the point where you get to choose what strategy you want. So if you want that stacking strategy, I'm going to do that over here. 53 minus 29. Is there more on top or more on the floor? I have more on the floor, so I'm going to go next door and borrow some more. My 5 becomes a 4 because I'm taking a 10 away. I'm moving that 10 over here, so now I have plenty of numbers to subtract. I can do 13 minus 9 now because there's more on top. Don't stop. So 13 minus 9 equals 4. 4 minus 2 equals 2. So you can solve it that way. You can rewrite your problem. I know some of you like to do addition. So if I'm doing an addition problem, I need my smaller numbers to come first. So if I have 29 plus my mystery number, I know that this number is going to be smaller because when I work with subtraction, remember my largest number is at the beginning. When I work with addition, my largest number is at the end. So I can do an open number line and I can do 29 plus 53. 29 super close to 30, so I'm just going to make a jump to 30 real quick and do one hop. Now I can jump by tens until I can get to 53. I can't go over 53, so let's see. 30, 40, 50. Oh, I can't go over, so I have to stop at 50. So that took me 2 jumps of 10, which is the same thing as 20. And then I just have to take one last jump, from 50 to 53. That takes me 3 jumps. So what's my last step I have to do? I have to add all my jumps together, see how many it took. So if I do 20 plus 1 plus 3 equals 1 plus 3 equals 4. Hope you can't really see that very well. And 2 plus 0 equals 2. I got 24 again. So whatever one you would like to do. For this one, number 2, it says, remember, if I'm going fast, go ahead and pause my video. For problem 1 above, find how many more cards Carmen has than David. Carmen has blank more cards than David. How many more cards did we say Carmen had? We found that she had 24 more cards, right? That was the answer we found. What do you notice about your answers for problems 1 and 2? Explain. So for this one, it's asking, how are these two ones the same? This one, it told us how many Carmen had and how many David had, and it said how many fewer cards does David have than Carmen. And down here, it says find how many more cards Carmen has than David. Well, this one, when it's saying fewer cards, it's saying how many fewer cards David has. It says David first. And in this one, it's talking about more cards, but we're talking about Carmen. So all they did is they're trying to trick us. They're trying to say if we set up this problem like we did, we have 53 minus 29. But if we set it up down here, we would have 29 plus our mystery number, that addition problem that we had, equals 53. Do we get the same answer, friends? Yeah, we get the same answer. But if we only used our word problem to set up our problem, this one is a subtraction problem, and we ended up switching it to an addition problem because we know the strategies. But if we were to just follow how the words say, then we would have an addition problem down here. But like I said, you can always switch these numbers around to make a subtraction or an addition problem. They're the same. Because we've learned with fact families, we can do that. Alrighty, almost done, friends. You're doing awesome. All right, right here, number 3. Choose yes or no to tell if you can use the equations to solve for the question mark in the problem below. So, friends, this is where we're going to need our fact families, okay? So it looks like our subtraction problem is a mystery number minus 23 equals 61. One thing I want you guys to think of is when we subtract, where does our largest number have to be? Is our largest number at the end or at the beginning? Think about when you subtract. Our largest number is at the beginning. So this is a bigger number than 23 and 61. So we're going to switch up the equations down here to see if we know our fact families. So it says, can you do 61 minus our mystery number equals 23? Well, what we just talked about is this number right here, our mystery number, has to be the biggest number because it's in a subtraction problem, right? If we said 1 minus 23 equals 61, that doesn't make sense, right? So we have to have our largest number. So for this one, it's saying 61 is our largest number because they put it up at the front. So would that work? No. And friends, my light's turned off, so I'm going to go run to the back of the room and get them to turn on real quick. Okay, now we're going to do our next one. 23 plus 61 equals our mystery number. Well, with fact families, we know that our largest number is always at the beginning in a subtraction problem. Where is our largest number in an addition problem? It's always at the end. We have our two smaller numbers at the beginning. So our two smaller numbers are 61 and 23. So does that work? Yeah, that works. What about this one? It says 61 minus 23. We're working with subtraction, but remember, what rule do we have to follow? Our biggest number has to come at the very beginning. Even though we don't know this number, I know it has to be bigger than 23 and 61 because if I'm subtracting, it has to be at the beginning. So they decided to switch up our order, and they did 61 as our biggest number minus 23. If they did that, we'd get an even smaller number. And a smaller number can't go at the beginning, so that is a no. And then we have this friend over here. A mystery number minus 61 equals 23. In a subtraction problem, our biggest number has to be at the front, right? And it is. Our mystery number we know has to be a big number. And what we can tell about fact families is as long as our mystery number is at the very beginning, these two numbers can switch, right? And that's all they did. They switched. I think that sounds good, so I'm going to say yes. Alrighty. Of the 83 students on a field trip, 47 are girls. How many boys are on the field trip? Write an addition equation and a subtraction equation that can be used to find the solution. So we don't have to solve this one. All we have to do is write it. So we know that there are a total of 83 students, right, friends? So I'm going to say 83 right here. 47 of them are girls, and the rest are boys. So if we know out of 83 students, 47 are girls, if I subtract 47, I'm going to get the amount of boys, right? I'm going to get that mystery number. I know if I have a total of 83 students, and I take away 47 of them because they told me 47 are girls and the rest are boys. I don't know how many boys I have yet. That's what I have to solve. So I have to have a smaller number because remember, my biggest number is 83. That's how many we have in all. My biggest number comes at the beginning. I'm going to subtract my smaller number to get my other smaller number. So we have one equation down. We have a subtraction equation. And we need an addition equation. So let's do an addition equation. What do I know about the three numbers? I can use them as fact families. So I can just rewrite my problem. So if I'm doing an addition problem, do I start with my largest number, or do I start with my smaller numbers? I start with my smaller numbers. So I have 47. I don't know that mystery number yet. I do know it's a small number because, remember, our largest number is at the beginning in a subtraction problem. So I know this number is a small number with this one. We have our whole minus a part equals a part. In addition, we have a part plus a part equals a whole, which is our total, 83. So we can use both of these problems to help solve that equation. Now number 5. During 1 month, Lily rides her bike 18 more miles than Raj. Lily rides her bike 50 miles. How many miles does Raj ride his bike? Okay, so we know that Lily rides her bike 50 miles, right? And it says that she rides her bike 18 more miles than Raj. How many miles does Raj ride his bike? So if Lily does more than Raj, that means Raj does less, correct? So we're looking for Raj. So if Raj does less miles than Lily, because it says Lily rides her bike more than Raj, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the total of Lily. Lily does 50 miles. And it says Lily rides her bike 18 more miles. Now we're trying to find how many Raj rides his bike. So we're going to subtract 18. All right. Now we're going to do our stacking strategy. I'm going to start with my ones. More on top, don't stop. More on the floor, go next door and borrow some more. Do I have more on the top or more on the floor? More on the floor. So I'm going to go next door. I'm going to borrow a group of 10. So I bring it over and now I have 10 minus 8. I can do that. 10 minus 8 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3. And we get 32. All right. Our very last question. We're almost done. You guys are rocking it. It says Cindy chose A as the correct answer. She got 68. How did Cindy get her answer? Well, I know we did the equation 50 minus 18 equals 32. I'm just writing it across so you guys can see it better. We just solved it that way and we know that it's correct. However, Cindy got 68. So what do we notice about if I put 68 with the numbers of 50, 18, and 68? What do I notice about them? I notice 68 is my biggest number, right? So if 68 is my biggest number, it's bigger than 50 and bigger than 18. Rather than subtracting, I bet she added. So let's see. If we did 50 plus 18, let's see if she did this mistake. 0 plus 8 is 8. 5 plus 1 is 6. Oh, I bet she accidentally just decided to add them together rather than subtracting them. All right, friends, go ahead. Oh, how did Cindy get her answer? I forgot to write it down. She added rather than subtracting. All righty. Go ahead and take a picture of this and submit it once you're finished.